back again. I've made some more subtle changes to the stream. Hopefully the audio is slightly better, because I know that there was a lot of noise and such, lots of buzzing when I speak, and hopefully that is, if not gone, at least reduced. Hopefully a slightly less unpleasant experience. And let's do the checking and the streaming and stuff. Ow, my ears. Okay. How am I gonna do this then? Let's where the hell? Okay. Stream is active. I'm going to mute desktop audio and listen. It appears to be working. That's all good. Okay. So we left off just after the court lobby scene, hearing Gina's side of the story. At last, they always leave this to the last minute, don't they? But yeah, it's time to drag Egbert Benedict to the stand, or whatever, if that is your real name. Voices. Ay, ay, ay.
I hereby call this court to order as we resume the trial of Miss Gina Lestrade. Lord Van Sykes, have you successfully subpoenaed the witness?
Subpoena was delivered to the communications station, where the man works immediately, my lord. However, the heavy rain has delayed the arrival of his carriage, it would seem.
I see.
Oh yeah, there is heavy rain. I forgot about that.
Then let us turn to our attention to Inspector Gregson's precis of the case, heard by the court this morning. The glaring omission of the third bullet in your report is a serious blunder, Inspector.
Yes, I can only apologise, my lord.
And although the defence's chemical analysis of the blood at the scene makes for a compelling argument, I cannot permit such untried methods to be used as evidence in my court.
It's a big mistake to cross Hurley in May. A very big mistake. My lord, the subpoenaed witness has just arrived in the building.
Thank you, officer. Show him to the stand without delay.
Mr. Egbert Benedict. I didn't expect to be crossing paths with him again so soon. And certainly not like this.
Thank you for complying with the court's subpoena at such short notice, sir.
But of course, my lord, and as an upstanding member of London society, it is my pleasure to oblige.
Now, kindly state your name and occupation for the record.
Ashley Graydon, Communications Officer. Maybe another fake name? AGGA. That was the letters on his cane.
Oh, Mr. Graydon and I both work at London's Central Communication Station.
Oh, now perhaps somebody would kindly explain what all this is about.
You were apprised of the situation by the court officer on your way here, I presume.
Oh, yes, I was. Something to do with a murder that took place at a pawnbroker's on Baker Street. Some nonsense about having been there on the night in question. That is the accusation, indeed. This really is beyond a joke, you know.
Very well, without further delay, the court will hear your testimony now, Mr. Graydon. You will respond to the accusation made against you under oath.
Oh, gladly, my lord, gladly. Naturally, I have occasion to make use of pawnbroking services from time to time. But are you seriously suggesting I colluded with these thugs to break into the place on the night of the murder? I have no intention of admitting to such an outrageous accusation, even if certain parties here present claim that my blood was found at the scene. Some Scaramouche detective's homebrewed tincture can hardly be taken as evidence serious evidence.
So, you deny the accusation completely, do you?
I must say, I am dismayed. For the highest court in the land to be swayed by this self-professed detective's toy.
It was the will of the jury, and our great British justice system demands that the jury's will is upheld.
Then it would seem we have the misfortune, the most inept in our assembly of jurors today.
By golly!
How long am I expected to be detained here?
If following the defence's cross-examination, your involvement in this matter has not been established, you will be free to leave immediately.
Good, then I shall be away in time for afternoon tea. Some small consolation, at least.
Let us not hold up Mr. Graydon any longer than necessary, counsel. Proceed with the cross-examination.
So we meet again, Mr. Eggert Benedict. Or is it Mr. Graydon? Or neither?
Oh, my apologies. You are?
Ryunosuke Naruhodo, defense lawyer. We have met.
If you say so. Ashley Graydon, enchanté. So? I trust we can conclude this quickly.
I'm not holding your flashy hat while we do. We're gonna have to do excuse me, probably. That's all he's going to say on the matter, is it?
What do you think, Rona?
I think he has no intention of telling us anything. He's well aware that the less he says, the less chance he has of giving himself away.
The complete opposite of Hurley, then. He seems to think that the more he says, the better.
I need to find a way of getting more information out of this man, somehow. Compared to the bungling burglars beside him, he seems as innocent as a child.
Or perhaps the Skulking Brothers might be the key here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. Oh, could they be somehow?
Remember, if you don't prove this witness has some connection to the incident here, he'll be free to leave.
I know, I can't let that happen. Let's listen to those statements again and see if there's any way I can make use of them. Make one of them tell us more. So he's just looking at him the whole time.
Hold it!
Hold it! Yes, we even met in the very pawnbrokery where the crime took place on the afternoon of the day in question. Though, of course, you introduced yourself by a different name at the time. It was Mr. Eggert Benedict, I believe. Tell me, what made you... Objection! The witness is here to testify about the events that took place that night.
He is under no obligation to answer such unrelated questions. You can't be serious. Oh, thank you. Aye, because I certainly do not feel inclined to answer such an inappropriate question. So he's going to be evasive, is he? In an effort not to give anything away. It's going to be tricky.
Hold it!
Hold it! Have you seen these two men before? This pair? No, I don't associate with criminals. Led by a man who introduced himself as Edgar Benedict. I'd like to know who I have to thank for this. Who made this outlandish accusation against me? The young lawyer there in the black. This is a farce. Whose idea was it to admit an outsider to work in a British court anyway? Well, needless to say... Hold it! Where were you at around 1 in the morning on the night in question, sir? That is past the hour at which I would normally retire. Certainly. I was not in the company of these rapscallions. You're able to prove that?
Objection!
Objection! Listen carefully, my learned Nipponese friend. For you to appear to be under a gross misapprehension on this point. What do you mean? The witness maintains he was not at the scene of the crime. He has no obligation to prove his absence. Your accusation is that the witness was present at the scene. The obligation lies with you to prove your assertion. You will fulfill that obligation before putting any more unreasonable questions to the witness. Silent victory, Wiggle. Thanks.
Hold it!
Hold it! Blood was found at the scene of the crime. There's no question of that. The Sholmes' chemical analysis has positively identified the substance as such. Oh, but I'm not the only human who have blood running through my veins, am I? How can you be sure that the blood is mine? It could equally be the blood of one of these two miscreants. The individual's blood has a slightly different composition, it seems. Mr. Sholmes' chemical is able to differentiate different... Spare me the science lesson. Who is this Sholmes character, anyway? Oh, I assumed all Londoners would know the name. He's a great... well, a renowned detective. So, even you are unable to bring yourself to say great detective. A great detective, you say? Now we're in the realm of fairy tales, aren't we? The counsel for the defence thinks a British courtroom is an appropriate place for fairy tales, does he? Oh, this is so unfair. That chemical test is based on solid science. Ellie and I know what we're doing. The trouble is, unless the technique can be independently verified, we'll never get beyond this man's flashy stick waving. Granted, it's a very colourful alchemy. Perhaps it would make a good souvenir for you uneducated friends back home in the East. Something riled him there, just for a moment. Mr. Graydon let his feathers get ruffled. But a souvenir, it's all it's good for.
Hold it!
Hold it! Don't forget, sir, that Mr. Herlock Sholmes is the most famous detective in the world. And the most famous detective in the world tells the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, Well, no, I can't think of how to answer that. I once saw the world's most famous swindler thrown in jail. He allegedly told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but what turned out to be a pack of lies. Ugh. Right, now, As you are no doubt aware, the Central Communications Station is at the heart of this country's information network. My work there is of paramount importance, and you have kept me from it long enough already.
Hold it!
Excuse me. Do you have something to say about that, Mr. Skulkin?
Hey, what, me?
No, the Mr. Skulkin next to you.
Right, I've had it up to here with this. How many times have I got to tell you?
Yes, I know. You're not a big bruv sulky. Mr. Nash Skulkin.
Oh, blimey, governor. You what?
Is it not the case that when Mr. Graydon just spoke, a thought went through your mind? Would you care to share that thought with the court?
Hey, me thought? Oh, I don't have none of them. It must have been him. You what?
Mr. Nash Skulkin, answer the question, please. What went through your mind when Mr. Graydon just spoke?
Nothing. Oh, honest, Gov, nothing. I was just thinking, if he waves his arm around like that much more, he'll open up the wound again, that's all.
What wound?
Where he took the bullet, of course. It was only 2 days ago. He ain't gonna be healed up yet. So I was, well, you know, I was worrying for him. And... oh, well, spells.
Mr. Graydon, did you hear that? What? Your comrade is worried about you, it seems. On account of your injured arm. My lord. Yes,
yes, Mr. Graydon.
I have no idea what these 2 wretches are talking about. Certainly, I shouldn't be expected to answer anything in relation to their mindless insinuations. We know that someone other than the victim was hit by a bullet at the scene of the crime two nights ago. And from the height of the bullet hole in the wall, that person was likely hit in the upper arm or thereabouts. He's gonna pull a Von Karma and say this bullet was from something else. Perhaps you'd allow a court official to examine your arm, sir. The left arm that you're currently clasping with your right hand as if in pain. No, I refuse. You have shown no evidence whatsoever that links me to these common thieves. Accordingly, I am not obliged to permit any such invasion of my privacy. As I've already said, I'm completely uninvolved in all of this. I've never had anything to do with the pawnbrokery where this fellow was killed whatsoever. I take offence at the insinuation that I was anyway involved.
You claim to have nothing whatsoever to do with Mr. Windybank's pawnbrokery.
My lord, the defence would like that last statement to be added to Mr. Graydon's formal testimony.
Very well, counsel. Continue with your testimony, Mr. Graydon.
Is this going to be different now? Well, we got him to slip up anyway.
Hold it! Hold it! Never had anything to do with it. forget that I was there, Mr. Graydon, on the very afternoon of the incident. Obviously, I'm not a complete stranger to the pawnbrokers. I'm currently on the lookout for an armchair to furnish my study.
Objection!
Objection! No, you were there to redeem an article. I have no idea what you're talking about.
Is that right?
Sorry? You must be confusing me with somebody else. I wasn't there for any such purpose. But the redemption ticket! That won't get you anywhere, Rono. Iris, what do you mean? Oh, there's another what do you mean. Mr. Windybank never wrote the names of his customers on his redemption tickets. So you can't prove the ticket was his. Ah, of course, she's right. I'm afraid you're gonna need to produce some irrefutable evidence here. Otherwise, he'll never admit to being there. Irrefutable evidence. Well, at least I managed to prize a little more information from these witnesses' lips. All thanks to the Skulkin brothers. Yes, they were the key to it after all. So he says he had nothing to do with Windybanks. Well, you know that's not true. Perhaps now would be a good time to have a proper look through the court record. Good idea. You never know what tiny scrap of information could become a valuable weapon.
Hold it!
Hold it!
Objection!
Objection!
Is that right?
Hey, I missed it. Oh, thank you. Thank you, game.
Excuse me!
Excuse me. Do you have something to add, Inspector?
Aye, come again, sunshine.
You were there too, in fact, weren't you, Inspector? That afternoon.
Well, yes, I do remember meeting yourself in the pawnbroker's that afternoon. You, your young Japanese assistant, and the accused were all present as well, as I recall.
And at that time, this witness, Mr. Graydon, was trying to acquire a particular article.
Well now.
So you've got the police covering for him too.
I'm afraid I can't remember too clearly.
What? But you must.
Oh, I'm not going to lie and pretend I remember something that I don't.
What's going on here? Greggsy showed us a picture before, didn't he? You know, from the camera that Hurley installed in Windybanks. Yes, of course.
Indeed, and the gentleman pictured bears a striking resemblance to the witness, I must say.
Exactly, which proves that Mr. Graydon was in the shop on the afternoon in question. At no point have I denied that fact. I merely entered the shop to peruse at the articles on sale and have a word with the broker. Nothing more. It makes no sense. I understand why Mr. Graydon might be trying to cover his tracks. Why would Gregson be trying to avoid giving testimony about what happened? That's all he's going to say on the matter, is it? Okay. So we're going to need something better than just that. Is it going to be the cat picture?
Is it going to be the photo? We don't have it in evidence. We could ask to inspect his... Oh, no, maybe we couldn't. Let's say his gun, but... Can't be this. Wait, is it on the bottom? No, there's nothing there.
Objection! Is that right?
Proper look. Tiny scrap of information. His handwriting? No, this is Windybank's handwriting. The stamps? I mentioned the stamps before, but I don't know if that's actually going to lead anywhere. It was blood, this stain, like we suspected.
That's right. Hurley's wonderful concoctions soon prove that.
I don't suppose Gina couldn't have been wearing leather gloves that night, could she?
Ginny would never wear gloves. He's a pickpocket. She relies on being able to feel with her fingertips.
I could be wrong, but I think I'm being told off. This ain't it. It's not this, and it's not that. Tiny scrap of information. Maybe doing the Gregson bit changed one of the other presses.
Objection! Hold it! Hold it! Objection! Hold it!
Okay. I'll try doing the Gregson bit one more time.
that right? Excuse me.
Excuse me. Picture is there, the gun is there. He's holding his cane in one hand. Okay, I have to present. There's no other choice. Investigate everything. Perhaps he ran out of what? Alright. That's just the cat. Completely irrelevant. We've tried the blood here. Mr. Windybank appears to have used the back of his photograph, this photograph, to write out a redemption ticket. He's written it very neatly, but still, perhaps he ran out of paper. He had to use anything he had to hand. It's hard to know what the front and what's the reverse side now. That was different, but not... This has got nothing to do with it. This can't prove anything. The music box disc itself. This can't be it. That's not it. Nothing here. One of these guns, maybe? I thought I'd looked at these guns very carefully. Okay. Is the snowman wearing his hat, maybe? That would be very lucky. This has seriously got nothing. There's no name on it or anything, right? I'm gonna double, triple, super, hooper, triple, mega check that there's no name on this. That I've just somehow missed like a fool. No, okay.
Disc.
Not on that. It can't be this. I mean, it feels like it has to be the disc, because it's the only thing that's even remotely, like, it could work. I am going to double check that the snowman in the photo doesn't... No, it doesn't have his hat. Or anything like that.
Objection!
What? That seems so weird. Like, why is this going to make him admit? He can just deny it. No? Have you ever seen this disc before, Mr. Graydon? Why? Is it supposed to mean something? This disc was, until the day of the murder, in pawn at Mr. Windybank's shop. It was redeemed by the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, that afternoon. However, somebody mysteriously appeared to try to take it from her. That somebody was you, of course, wasn't it, Mr. Graydon? What's... This is nothing. What? This has got nothing behind it. As I have reiterated numerous times now, you are mistaken. That was not me. I've never seen that disc before in my life. It may have escaped your notice, but there is a small smear of blood on the disc.
Ah, yes, resulting from an abrasion of the thumb, perhaps.
That's right. The surface of the disc is covered in hundreds of tiny metal bumps. In the skirmish to acquire the disc, the thumb of the person who tried to take it suffered minor lacerations. But if he's not going to show us his arm, he's not going to show us his thumb, is he? So, while the disc bears the remnants of that skirmish in the form of this smear of blood, the thumb of the person in question must bear remnants also, in the form of a scratch.
Good gracious, indeed it must.
Mr. Graydon, you refused to allow a court officer to examine your arm before. Are you now going to refuse us to examine your thumb? Because I have no doubt that it bears a small scratch consistent with the smear of blood on this disc. Well, well. It would seem I underestimated you.
What? What is the meaning of this?
So you admit it now? You admit you have a scratch on your thumb from when you attempted to take this disc from the defendant? That was kind of a bluff.
Oh dear, oh dear. Well, Mr. Graydon.
It would appear there's been something of a misunderstanding here. I did not attempt to take the disc, as you put it. No, quite the reverse. What are you trying to say? It's really quite simple, you see. That disc was mine from the outset. Is there some crime in taking an item that you own out of pawn? What? It would seem, Mr. Graydon, that in this piece of evidence, my learned friend has established a link between yourself and the incident. Accordingly, you will tell the court everything you know about this disc now. As you wish. Though I'm quite sure it has nothing whatsoever to do with the pawnbroker's murder. Okay. I feel like Van Zykes is kind of helping us, to be honest. Like, he didn't have to be accommodating at that point. I feel like. There's a note on the disc saying, "Former gilded, but the item belongs to me. The redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutterling, on the day in question. I proceeded at once to the shop in order to explain my situation and redeem my article. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police. In other words, I had absolutely no reason to break into the shop later that same night."
Did I hear you correctly, sir? McGilded, you say? The famous London philanthropist. Who perished in this very courtroom 2 months ago, after being acquitted of a distinctly messy murder.
Oh, yes, my lord. The one and the same.
Good Lord, Mr. Graydon. Are you saying that Mr. McGilded and yourself were acquainted?
Yes, that's correct.
Oh, dear. Well, I certainly didn't expect to hear that name uttered here in my courtroom again.
According to what Gina told us, this disc was placed in pawn on that fateful night 2 months ago. McGilded himself gave instructions to deposit it at Windybanks. It's funny that Mr. Graydon here is claiming the disc belongs to him then, isn't it? In all likelihood, he's lying. So he appeared that afternoon at Windybanks in order to get his hands on McGilded's disc for some reason.
Counsel, you will commence your cross-examination, please.
Hold it! Would you care to explain how this belongs to you? As you will observe, a communications officer, such as myself, commands a fine salary.
You are certainly exquisitely dressed, sir.
So you see, I have little need to make use of the services provided by the pawnbrokery trade. However, I did once find myself in difficulties, having misplaced my purse whilst on an errand, which is why I pawned my fine black overcoat to the broker in question. You claim that it was your overcoat. Obviously, and in my haste, I clean forgot that the music box disc was in its pocket. And yet, there is a note on that reads, for McGilded. I'm a collector of rare and unusual music box music. I first met Mr. McGilded at a gentleman's club in the city, and was interested to discover that he shared my penchant in that area.
So, the disc in question...
It's a pre-production sample. I promised to let Mr. McGilded hear it. But then you forgot that it was in the pocket of the overcoat you were forced to pawn. Yes, exactly. Jana didn't mention any of that in her testimony 2 months ago, did she? No, because Mr. McGilded had threatened her to keep her mouth shut. Which means that if we dig too deeply here, it's going to expose Gina's perjury. Oh dear, this is complicated, isn't it? Let's leave it alone for the time being. Oh, the redemption ticket was stolen from me by the accused, that filthy gutterling on the day in question. Hold it! So you're saying that Miss Lestrade lifted the ticket from the pocket, or from your pocket or bag? That's right, despite being mindful of danger and walking in this insalubrious areas her kind frequent.
Objection!
Objection! Miss Lestrade did no such thing. Well, of course, you would take that stance, but the girl is a regular offender. You came to the pawnbrokery that day prepared with all the information you needed to identify the defendant. You were looking for her. That's what brought you to Windybanks. Get your hands on Mr. McGilded's disc.
Objection!
Objection! My learned friend is a veritable font of nonsense. Nonsense?
I concur with the prosecution. Counsel, you will refrain from conjecturing in this way. Is that clear?
Yes, my lord. Then I will continue with my testimony, for what possible use it can be.
Hold it!
Hold it! Had you ever been to Windybanks before? Only once, for the purposes of pawning something. But, like many, I enjoy browsing such establishments. So when you noticed that the pickpocket had taken your ticket, you chased after her. Is that correct? Yes, that's right. I didn't notice at first, of course. Such is the art of the pink purse. How did we prove this whole thing in the first place? It was because he was holding that leaflet. Right? But obviously. But when I did, I headed to the pawnbrokery at once, in order to reclaim my coat before the thief could. I was merely trying to recover what was rightfully mine in the first place. There was no reason for you to do that, because how could she have known the password? Yeah. How could she have known the secret word? He can say what he likes because he knows we have no evidence to contradict him on this. In the end, of course, the disc was taken by the police.
Hold it!
Hold it! Yes, it was taken by Inspector Gregson here, wasn't it? That's right. This was the very man. Apparently, the police are collecting anything that has connection to McGilded as evidence. That's what the inspector said, at least, as he seized my disc. And thanks to the skirmish with that wastrel, I snagged the end of my thumb at the same time. And the disc in question is this disc here. Yes, it is. Scotland Yard have indeed been gathering items believed to have been the property of McGilded, presumably to aid their investigations in some way. Not something I would be aware of. I really didn't know the man well, anyway. After all, I'm merely a communications officer with a penchant for music boxes and flamboyant poses. In other words, I have absolutely no reason to break into the shop later on the same night. McGilded slipped the disc into his coat pocket and had it deposited in Windybanks. Then, when he realised he was going to be arrested on suspicion of the omnibus murder, he threatened Gina and forced her to take the redemption ticket. There's no doubt about it. That witness is lying through his pearly white teeth. The police were obviously after anything left behind by McGilded as well. That's why Inspector Gregson ended up taking the disc into custody that day. But Gregson's been very strange about all this. There must be a reason for that, I'm sure. Just don't know what it is. For now, I need to focus on exposing the fact that Mr. Graydon is lying in his testimony.
Hold it!
I'll do this first.
Is that right? Excuse me!
Excuse me. Is something wrong, Inspector?
What do you mean?
That last remark Mr. Graydon made in his testimony seemed to trouble you in some way.
No, it didn't. It's nothing. Leave it alone.
Let me ask you this, Inspector. Why is Scotland Yard gathering Mr. McGilded's possessions?
Oh, I can't tell you something like that, sunshine.
What is it, Inspector? Investigative secrets?
least you got to listen to the best theme in the game.
What is it, Inspector? Investigative secrets? Yes, exactly. You should know all about that. Magnus McGilded, who died so unexpectedly after his trial 2 months ago. A man renowned throughout the capital for his great contributions to public life. Yet he had a dark side too. Where will you go with this, man, Aleks? I suppose the police are dealing with the aftermath of his nefarious activities, are they? There's enough. Coppers like me have duties to carry out that we're not at liberty to talk about. That's all you need to know. Duties conferred by Lord Strongheart, I presume. The Lord Chief Justice appears to have great faith in you, Inspector. The bottom line is, if you want to get more out of me, you're gonna need Lord Strongheart's paw print first.
What's all this about? Yeah, Van Zykes has his own agenda. He is not a fan of the sort of the fact that he hasn't been privy to the whole situation. It's like there's something going on between Gregson and Lord Van Zykes here. Or more like Lord Van Zykes and Lord Strongheart by proxy, you know?
Well, it would appear that the Inspector has revealed all he is at liberty to reveal. Mr. Graydon, let us return to your testimony.
Gladly, my lord. Oh.
Hold it!
But perhaps you'd seen something of value among the forfeited items.
No, not at all. Oh. Oh. A valuer was brought in by the police to assess everything in the shop. Without exception, every article on the shelves was common or garden bric-a-brac. In that case, it's clear that you broke into the shop later that day in order to recover Mr. McGilded's disc. No? Have you not been listening, man? Even if I had wanted to recover the disc, you may recall it had been seized by the police that afternoon. It was no more in the shop than I. As I can keep saying, I simply had no reason to break in. Though there was nothing of Mr. McGilded's left in the shop on that night. Nothing this man might have been after. I wonder if that's really true. Oh no, if you have some evidence, then let him have it. I'm dying to see that irritatingly assured expression of his crumble. Okay, so Iris is hinting that statement 5 is the one. Which makes sense. Wait, how do we know that this is McGilded? I don't know, but let's just send it.
Objection!
Objection! This disc was deposited at Windybanks on Magnus McGilded's instructions. You knew that, and you went there with the intention of obtaining it for yourself.
Objection!
Objection! Conjecture again, and in any case, the disc was taken into custody by the police that afternoon. The witness had no reason to visit the pawnbrokery again that night.
Objection!
Objection! Sorry, my learned friend. But that's not true. What? Mr. McGilded had another article in pawn at Windybanks, as this second pawnbroker's ticket proves. There were 2 articles belonging to Mr. McGilded in Windybanks pawnbrokery, and the reason you broke into the shop that night was to recover the second one.
together with your two accomplices, the Skulking Brothers. Arr. Arr.
This is the second ticket, is it?
What had the man deposited? The article description reads, one small box.
A rather vague description, it seems to me.
Are you suggesting? Oh. Are you suggesting that I broke into the pawnbroker with these clowns in order to steal some trinket box? I believe there are adequate grounds to suspect that you did. This is absurd. Why on earth would I do such a thing? Once the article had been forfeited, I could simply walk into the shop and purchase it. There would have been absolutely no need for me to resort to theft. That's a good point.
Indeed. The witness makes a solid argument.
So that means that for some reason... Yes, 10 shillings. And the date now is the 16th, okay. This Graydon fellow needed the small box that very night, does it?
Objection!
Objection! It is time to put an end to this nonsense, my lord.
Could you be a little less cryptic, Lord Van Sykes?
I do hate to ruin my learned friend's argument, but the truth is quite incontrovertible. On the night in question, no small box was taken from Windybank's pawnbrokery. And rest assured, the prosecution can prove it.
What? Good gracious!
Inspector, show the photographic prints to the court, if you please.
Yes, sir. Oh, yes, sir.
What prints?
These prints were taken from one of the detective's security cameras.
The other one. Ah, Hurley's red-handed recorders again. As previously explained, using this plan of the shop layout. Are we going to pull out the fucking same trick again? The victim's establishment was furnished with automatic cameras in 2 locations. One was set to capture the counter where Mr. Windybank received his customers, and the other was set to capture the shelves on which the articles were placed for sale once forfeited.
According to the information on this ticket, the gilded small box had been forfeited already. 2 days before the incident, at 9 PM on the 13th of April to be precise, which means it would have been on the shelves on the forfeited items in the shop front. Now, what I have here is a print taken by one of the cameras about 2 hours before the incident. That's 11 PM at the 15th of April. The victim certainly had a very full shop, it would appear. And then here we have another print.
Is it this in the middle? It sticks out as being different.
This one was taken 2 hours after the incident.
Why didn't he just give 2 that are 30-minute apart?
I see. So we have our 2 competitors to compare.
Here we go again.
Though I must say that placing them side by side leaves me cold.
Hmm. I can't tell this time.
Dear me, that's startling to make my head ache. Obviously, at Scotland Yard, we considered theft as one possible motive in this case. We explored the possibility that something had been taken in addition to the victim's life. So your men have already compared these two prints thoroughly, Inspector? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Why, he counted every single item on these two shelves in these two photographic prints. And the Yard's conclusion is that they're exactly the same number are present in both.
One was swapped with a replica. I think that the small box is a music box which can decode the coded messages on the discs, and that he replaced it with a replica that cannot. And he didn't think to do it before, like on the 14th, because he didn't think it'd be relevant, because he's just going to take the disc, so what does it matter if he has the disc, right? I feel like at some point we're going to get the disc, we're going to lose the disc somehow, and then we're going to have to hope that Sholmes comes back and just use his, right? Once we figure out this box bullshit.
In other words, nothing was taken from the pawnbrokery on the night in question, and my learned friend's assertion is nothing more than a hopeful fantasy.
I don't believe it. I could just have shown that he'd stolen McGilded's pawned box. We might have been able to break him down at last. He didn't steal it, he just swapped it. You know what, Rono? I've been thinking. Fine, I'll do it again. Oh, I wonder if these two photographs really are exactly the same. I'm looking closely at the box that it appears to be. Found it, found it, found it, found it. It's this versus this. Okay, I'm going to try and cross my eyes and see if that sticks out. It works, you can see. It looks a bit fuzzy and different. What?
So, counsel, in the light of the evidence put forward by the prosecution, what is your position? It seems that, in fact, on the night in question, nothing was stolen from the victim's establishment. Do you accept the prosecution's assertion?
I don't know. Could there be some hidden discrepancy in these two photographic prints somewhere? Encounter discrepancy. I wasn't sure at first, but there is a clear discrepancy between these two prints.
What? Gah! You must identify the location in question for the court, counsel. Indicate the precise location of the discrepancy of which you speak.
Take that! Granted, these two prints are almost identical. However, there is one minor discrepancy between them.
What?
When you view the two pictures stereoscopically, a single area stands out as being different. The location of this small box. Let me wait. Unbelievable!
Right, I want to try and say that properly in his voice.
My lord, this is a... Let me wait. Unbelievable!
By Jove, you're right. How extraordinary.
What this tells us is very simple.
Let me make sure I'm still in the shot. Oh, yeah, that's better.
What this tells us is very simple. Mr. McGilded's small box was indeed not stolen from Windybanks on the night in question. However, there can be no doubt that somebody picked up this particular box and then returned it to its place on the shelves.
Are you suggesting that the small box originally deposited by Mr. McGilded is in fact...
Yes, the very same small box I just identified in those photographic prints.
Objection!
Objection! Mindless guesswork! What if it was? So a box was moved on a shelf, nothing was stolen, which means, quite simply, that nothing has changed. That's maybe true, but... Alright, Gilded's box wasn't stolen then, but doesn't the fact that it was moved like that change things? Well, it has to change everything, otherwise this is dumb. I believe this changes everything about the case.
This is pure bullshit.
How can that possibly be? The crucial point is the fact that what was moved was a small box. In other words, we have to consider what might have been inside that box. What are you suggesting?
I just love the...
I'm suggesting that we need to examine that box as soon as possible. A vital piece of evidence is sitting on the shelves at Windybanks as we speak.
Objection!
Objection! That won't be necessary. Some little box belonging to a man who died 2 months ago can't possibly be relevant to this trial.
Gah. The court does not uphold your objection, Lord Van Sykes. Bailiff, arrange for an officer to go to Baker Street at once. Obtain the small box in question and bring it back here for further examination.
What if the copper just, like, throws it in the bin, you know? There's clearly something going on. I think I've got to say, Van Sykes is one of my... I don't know if he's my favourite prosecutor, but he's definitely better than most of them, I think. Just by his sheer, like, annoyance at things.
We should have a report within half an hour. I think perhaps we should recess for a short while until the evidence is brought forth.
To be hoodwinked by such a farce. Disappointing.
I beg your pardon, Lord Van Sykes.
This is nothing but a smokescreen, a Nipponese speciality, it would seem. What are you trying to say? My learned friend has persisted with the same line of reasoning from the very beginning. That this witness's intent was to steal an article belonging to Mr. McGilded from the pawnbrokery. Yet common sense tells us that none of the articles have value enough to be worth stealing in the first place. Exactly. It would be beyond absurd to break into a place for the purpose of stealing such commonplace property. Like your lordship recalls, Mr. McGilded perished 2 months ago, immediately after the conclusion of his trial. A trial in which he was found not guilty. A trial in which it was established that he was the upstanding member of society his reputation implied, in fact. So I propose a toast to my learned friend and his most insightful defense. The articles this upstanding member of society pawned were entirely ordinary. A black overcoat that just so happened to have a music box disc in one of its pockets, and a small box.
Yeah, that's totally not suspicious at all.
I assure you, I couldn't accept even if the man tried to make a gift of such the things to me.
You know, that does make rather a lot of sense.
Oh, it's not as if it was gold or jewels, is it? Oh, goodness knows, Miss Gilded was rich enough. But you can't deposit cash at a pawnbroker. I'm quite certain of that.
The prosecution's argument is undeniably compelling.
It is incumbent on the defense now to bolster its argument. To explain what possible significance these commonplace articles pawned by this fine citizen could have.
Well, counsel, is your argument in fact demonstrable? Are you able to show proof that the disc or the box are in any tangible way related to this case?
Well, yes. What's the matter, Rono? We know that they're related, don't we? They're both vital pieces of evidence. Yes, of course. You and I both know that. We know McGild's true character, and we know the disc is significant, even if we don't know why. We explain that all to the court at this point. We'll have to rely on Mr. Sholmes' bullshit smoke again. We'll have to acknowledge that McGild's acquittal 2 months ago was a mistake. That the defence's argument was flawed, based on false information. Oh no! And that would mean admitting that Gina committed perjury. But Ginny? Could it be that Van Zykes knows?
Of course he does. Yeah, he wouldn't have called McGilded an upstanding member of society 2 months ago.
That's why he's doing this now, because he's anticipated everything. But maybe this could be a great opportunity for us. Sorry, what do you mean, Iris? Well, what is it that you always say, Runo? Sooner or later, the truth comes out every time. All right, the exact significance of the things that Mr. McGilded deposited with Mr. Windybank is something that only Gina can explain to the court. But if I put her in the stand to testify about that, it could critically damage our chances of winning this case. What's the right thing to do here?
I almost want to put the wrong answer. And I mean, the game is hinting that, oh wow, the truth should always win, and you should always do the right thing. But like, in this situation, I think there's a way forward without it, right? Like, we could present this to the court and explain that, you know, these are the two pawnbroker's tickets relating to McGilded's items. Then, okay, yeah, we can prove that it's McGilded's items because he has already admitted that this is McGilded's items, which sort of by association proves that this is Mr. McGilded's item. And then we can say that it's linked to the case because how did this item get deposited? How did this item get deposited? Oh, I don't know. It could be any way, but I can tell you one thing. Mr. McGilded couldn't have done it himself because look at the time. That's what I'm thinking, but
I want to see what the wrong answer is. It's just probably going to just be Ryunosuke, just like, I have to do the right thing because I'm Ryunosuke. No, I can't get Gina to testify about this. If I did, she'd be forced to admit that she is guilty of a serious offence already. Yeah, and yes, I guess... And for a pickpocket like her, that would surely be the nail in the coffin as far as this trial is concerned. So, you're not going to call Jenny then? Well, to be honest, I was on the verge of deciding not to. But we have to uncover the truth here. And in order to do that, we might have to suffer a few consequences along the way. Bruno! In other words, there's only one course of action for us to take here. It's not going to let me do a Phoenix Wright Justice for all case, last case, is it? It's not going to let me do the wrong thing. That's a shame. My lord, the defence would like to make a proposal.
Oh, what proposal, counsel?
While the court awaits for the arrival of Mr. McGilded's small box, I would like to call the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade, to the witness stand.
The defendant? To what end?
It's to do with the various articles deposited at Windybanks by Mr. McGilded, my lord. Miss Lestrade has information relating to them. I believe it would be beneficial for the court to hear what she has to say. It will prove the significance of the articles in question once and for all. Well, well, things are becoming interesting. I presume you've considered the implications of the testimony you're proposing. In particular, the impact it will have on the accused's standing, and indeed your own. I have.
Lord Van Sykes, would you care to explain that last remark?
The prosecution accepts the defence's proposal. I move to interrupt the cross-examination of the current witness and hear from the accused herself. He thinks it's going to advance. Well, I don't know. He knows that there's something up with the whole police hiding something from him. Right? He's not stupid. He's not doing this knowing that, like... And he's not the sort to, like, care about, oh, I have to get her declared guilty, because everything matters, nothing compared to that.
Very well, if you have no objection. So, the court will now hear the testimony of the defendant, Miss Gina Lestrade. Who witnesses currently in the stand may step down until further notice.
Oh, then I shall bid you good day. Wait. You, sir, shall remain in the stand while Miss Lestrade testifies. Oh, as you wish. All right then, Gina. It's time. See, he is totally like... He is doing us the solid of all the solids. Van Sykes is a ledge. I know this will be hard, but please, put your faith in me here. Good luck, Bruno. You see, okay, if this was a normal... If this was following at least slightly more faithfully real judicial proceedings, this is our witness, so we would examine the witness and the prosecution would cross-examine the witness, if I'm not mistaken. Because in a normal real-life court trial, prosecution presents their case, then defense presents their case. Sort of like, prosecution opening statement, their lot. Defense opening statement, their lot. At least in England, anyway. And then there's 2 closing statements at the end. But yeah, let's see what happens. It would probably just be a normal cross-examination, right? The articles that Mr. McGilded had deposited in Windybank's pawnbrokery are intimately related with the omnibus case, the trial which was heard in this courtroom 2 months ago.
Yes, and I remember this young lady being brought before me in that trial as well.
That's right, my lord. Her testimony helped to establish the innocence of the defendant, Mr. McGilded. The omnibus case was intriguing, to say the least. And now here we all are again, the same players in that trial, facing each other once more. It's time for a rematch, baby. A twist of fate, perhaps, my Nipponese friend. Allow me to recap the events of 2 months ago. An old brickmaker was stabbed to death in an omnibus running along London's winter streets. Apart from the victim, there was only one other person in the carriage, Mr. McGilded. Naturally, he was the prime suspect for the murder. But as the trial progressed, another possibility emerged. That the murder in fact took place above the defendant's head on the roof deck, with the body then being dropped through the skylights into the carriage below. It was Miss Lestrade whose testimony brought that possibility to light. At the time of the incident, Miss Lestrade was concealed under a seat in the carriage, hoping to pick the pockets of unsuspecting passengers. Then, immediately after the trial, having been acquitted of the murder, Mr. McGilded died in this very courtroom, in the most extraordinary of circumstances. Maybe Mr. McGilded was killed by Egbert Benedict, or whatever the fuck his real name was. What is his real name? Ashley Graydon. Ashley Grade. Ash Grade. Ash Gray. Ashtray. Ash Gray. I don't get the pun. A mystery that remains unsolved even now, 2 months later. As indeed does the omnibus murder itself.
Be that as it may, I recall neither this disc nor this small box being mentioned in the course of those proceedings.
Miss Lestrade? Would you tell the court now, please? What really happened in the omnibus 2 months ago, I mean? I don't know what you mean. I already said all of what I know. And what about everything you told us yesterday from inside your prison cell? Please, Miss Lestrade, this is extremely important. But... remember, little girl, if it transpires that you willfully withheld information in the trial 2 months ago, the Home Office will seek to prosecute you for perjury. Why the Home Office? I guess it is a matter of national security. Wait, no, it's not. Why is it the Home Office? It should be the Crown Prosecution Service. No? 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 Maybe the Crown Prosecution Service is a subsidiary of the Home Office, rather than the Judiciary Office? I don't know about historical departments of the UK government. The Department of Justice, there you go. It was a thing. I don't know if it was a thing at this time, but... And naturally, you will lose all credibility as a witness. Although, let's face facts, you have little credibility to lose. Ginny, don't listen to him. Please, you have to trust Runo now. Iris, we're on your side. Alright then, I'll talk. It's the right choice, Gina. Well, it would seem that my learned friend is hell-bent on bringing the entire courtroom down about his ears. So be it.
I must confess that I'm struggling to understand what on earth is happening here. However, it would appear that Mr. McGild's pawned articles in that extraordinary case of the omnibus harbour secrets which have been we have been hitherto unaware. So, Miss Lestrade, you will now give your testimony before the court about the events of 2 months ago. You will reveal the truth A commodity sorely lacking in your original statements.
This is it then. Everything's going to come out. Like Van Zyke said. This could bring the whole courtroom down about my ears. But as a lawyer, I'm prepared to take that risk. Hi, Fizz. That brickmaker cove was in the cabin of the omnibus the whole time. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw the disc on the floor. All of a sudden, I heard a scream from over my head and that pair on the roof deck went off to call the slops. That's when McGill had slipped the driver some tin to do a runabout at the pawn shop round about. He threatened me not to snitch, and not to say nothing to no one about what I'd seen or heard.
Good grief, this is outrageous. What you've just told the court bears almost no resemblance to your testimony 2 months ago.
As you say, my lord.
Then there's every chance I may have adjudicated an error in McGilded's trial. It sounds very much to me as if the man deliberately deceived the court in an effort to cover up the most wicked of schemes.
Without doubt, your lordship is correct. A great injustice was done in this courtroom 2 months ago. The actions of the accused in that trial, of this witness, and of my learned friend are entirely inexcusable. Mate, it was your fault and we said so in the trial. You should have made sure your case was fucking tight.
I don't believe it. The whole trial was a farce. It was all lies.
That McGilded fellow was rotten to the core, just like that pickpocket.
Get that lawyer from the east. They were all in on it together.
You're wrong, the lot of ya. Mr. Narrow Oddo, the lawyer there, he didn't know nothing about it.
Bally thing. Humbug.
I don't think so. Are we really expected to believe that?
He really stitched everyone up, didn't he? What an operation. Getting a man off scot-free.
Unforgivable. Stop. The lies have to stop. Stop. Yes, the defence made a terrible error of judgment. I intend to take full responsibility and suffer whatever consequences are deemed appropriate. However, it's imperative that the court allows the witness to elaborate on her testimony, because the true significance of McGilded's pawn articles must be brought to light. Very well, my learned student friend. Given the depths of calamity you have just plunged yourself into, this may well be worth hearing.
Words fail me. This situation is utterly deplorable. Mr. Naruhodo.
Yes, my lord.
I will decide upon your fate following the conclusion of this trial.
Of course, my lord. Blimey, Mr. Narrow-Oddo. Narrow-Oddo.
Now, counsel, proceed with the cross-examination.
Joe fears that brickmaker cove was in the cabin in the omnibus the whole time. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor. All of a sudden, I heard a scream over my head and that pair on the roof deck, blah blah blah. Well done, Gina. It can't have been easy to tell the truth like that. Ginny's really put her faith in you, Rono. Yes, and to thank her, she'll have to face a charge of perjury once this trial's over. So I need to use the time we have now to get as much information out of her as possible. It's time to really go for it. Press her on every statement. I suppose I should. Oh, and another thing. What's that? Take a look at those two. Isn't it strange that they've been whispering to each other the entire time? Yes, that is strange. It looks like they're having a secret discussion about something. I'm not sure I'm completely comfortable with that. I wonder if there's anything I can do about it. Just talk to them at any random point.
Hold it!
Hold it! And you were hiding in the cabin at the time as well, weren't you, Miss Lestrade? If I remember rightly, in the storage compartment underneath one of the seats. Yeah, that's right. It's pitch black under there, so you can't see nothing at all.
Now, in your testimony 2 months ago, I feel certain you claimed Mr. Gilder was the sole passenger. Did you not?
False testimony, my lord. That's what he told me I had to say. But it's important you tell us the truth now. Were Mr. McGilded and the victim acquaintances? I don't know. Excuse me. Is there something you'd like to share with the court, Inspector Gregson and Mr. Graydon? Inspector! Mr. Graydon!
What? Oh, blimey, you're trying to give me a heart attack?
We've been whispering to each other for quite some time now. Tell us, what is the discussion about?
Discussion? With this fella? Oh, the other one, sunshine. You think I've got anything to talk about with a shady gent like this?
And I have nothing to say to this uncouth detective after he deprived me of that disc that was rightfully mine. They've clearly been talking the entire time I've been cross-examining Gina. It's as if they've been negotiating.
You will kindly refrain from talking amongst yourselves while the witnesses were giving testimony. Yes, sorry, my lord.
What were those two talking about?
Miss Lestrade, continue with your testimony, please.
Okay. So now they're standing normally. Okay.
Hold it!
Hold it! I don't know. But I did hear them talking a lot. What were they talking about? Well, I couldn't hear too well, but if I had to say, I think it was about money or something. They kept talking about buying and not buying.
Perhaps business dealings of some kind.
Well, anyway, they got louder and louder. Started to sound like a proper fight. I was pretty scared by then. I hardly had dared to breathe. And then, all of a sudden, I heard a noise like someone keeling over on the floor. It was blooming loud and all.
And I believe you let out an involuntary scream.
Yeah. That's what gave me away. When the Irishman dragged me out from under the seat, I saw that disc on the floor.
Hold it!
Hold it! Was the disc you saw, this disc? Yeah, I reckon it probably was. It was right next to the cove, lying on the floor. Could this disc have belonged to the victim? Oh, no.
Could this disc have belonged to the victim, perhaps?
I don't know. But Mr. McGill had picked it up pretty smartish. And then he sat with the cove with the knife and his belly up on the seat. Oh, he set the And then he set the cove with the knife in his belly up on the seat. What did they say to you at that time? He told me not to say a word about what I'd seen or heard to no one. About the disc and all. I was dead scared. The way he was looking at me, I thought if I didn't go along with it, I'd get stuck with that knife too. Then he started asking me a load of questions. Like what my name was and where I lived and that. He asked me about being a diver too. But after a while, what happened in the carriage was noticed. Yeah, that's right. First there was a kind of rapping noise. All of a sudden I heard a scream.
Hold it!
Hold it! There were two gentlemen occupying the seats on the roof deck, I believe. That's right. I must have looked down through the skylight and noticed the cove with the knife in his guts. And they screamed. The driver pulled up the horses and Mr. McGilded got out of my sight. Got me out of sight.
Out of sight? Where?
Under the seat where I started off. Once the carriage came to an halt, the two coves from the roof ran to fetch the slops.
If they immediately left to fetch the police, it would appear they were entirely unrelated. If they immediately left to fetch the police, it would appear they were entirely unrelated to the incident. So that left Mr. McGilded, the driver, and you still at the scene.
Yeah, only the driver didn't know I was there, because I was under the seat. I heard the cabin door open, and a voice from outside.
The driver, yes. He also testified in the trial, I believe. Fellow who went by the name of Beppo, if memory serves.
What did McGilded and the driver say to each other? I don't know what happened, and stuff like that mainly. That's when McGilded slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop roundabout. That's when McGilded slipped the driver some tin to do a run to the pawn shop roundabout. Hold it! That pawn shop obviously being Windybanks on Baker Street.
Just a moment, Counsel. Do you mean to tell me that the driver gave false testimony in that trial as well?
That's the excursion to the pawnbroker slipped his mind when he was in the stand.
Indeed, Lord Madsykes.
McGilded took off his coat and gave it to the driver. He folded it up all careful like before handing it over. When I saw him doing that, I remember thinking, that coat and what's in it's got to be worth a few bob. Yes, Jean was sure the disc was worth more than Mr. Windybank was suggesting, wasn't she? I remember her quibbling with him over the price that afternoon at the pawnbroker. The driver looked pretty happy when McGilded flashed some brass in his face. He went running off at a lick. And then the bog trotter called to me and told to come out from the drag's cabin. He threatened me not to snitch, not to say nothing to no one about what I'd seen or heard.
Hold it. Threatened you how exactly?
Told me I'd only be able to scarper if I did exactly what he said.
Which included giving false testimony in court 2 months ago.
Yeah, that's it. And there was one other thing he said.
Which was?
He told me I'd have to hang on to the ticket from the pawn shop and make sure not to lose it.
Ticket? Well, I never.
Said that if he didn't show up to get the ticket off me before 2 months passed, I had to go to the pawn shop and pay the money to keep it in lug, to stop it being forfeited. And he left me with some brass to pay for it.
Really? Why on earth would Mr. McGilded have done such a thing? Positing his overcoat with the pawnbroker before the arrival of the police. It makes no sense at all.
There would seem to be only one logical explanation, my lord. What McGilded had the driver deposit at Windybanks was something he didn't want the police to see. Something very important that he needed to hide at all costs. Anyway, after that, he let me go, so I legged it before the coppers showed up.
Thank you, Miss Lestrade. Thank you, Counsel. I've heard enough. I believe we now have a reasonable understanding of what actually transpired on the omnibus.
It would appear on the night 2 months ago, a negotiation was taking place on the omnibus. A negotiation concerning this disc. However, matters did not run smoothly. When the parties involved began to quarrel over price, McGilded took what he wanted by force, at the expense of the other man's life.
Oh, maybe McGilded wanted to hide this disc, and he realised that Mr. Thrice-Fired Mason had the disc, and he just needed to buy it off him no matter what. But he wouldn't accept anything he was willing to pay.
The expense of the other man's life. Which proves my point. This disc is clearly extremely valuable in some way. Although I don't understand why as yet. And 2 days ago, precisely 2 months after the omnibus incident, Gilded's coat and its contents were due to be forfeited.
Oh, I didn't know what I should do with the ticket. I mean, the cove died right after his trial. I knew that.
So you decided you would try to claim the articles as your own?
Well, why not, eh? They were only going to be forfeited. Why shouldn't I have got them? Anyway, you can't blame me for thinking about it. Thinking ain't no crime.
Miss Lestrade, it would appear Mr. McGilded was prepared to kill in order to take possession of this disc. Do you know why that would be?
Eh? Oh, I ain't got a clue. But I reckon it must be worth a fair bit of brass. He was probably going to sell it. And you can't blame me for thinking that. Thinking ain't no crime.
My lord. My lord.
Oh, my lord. The evidence your lordship has requested has been located, and it is ready for the court's inspection, sir.
The stream running okay? It looks like it.
Mysterious little box, deposited by McGilded 2 months ago. There's no doubt in my mind that it is a key piece in this far-reaching puzzle.
To be continued. And that's where I'm going to end it for today. Well, I knew that there was going to be another to be continued. Because, I mean, how could there not be when the investigation was 4 parts long? So the trial has to be at least 4 parts long. It might even be 5, who knows. But let's save here. There it is. Let's see the first line.
So this is the article in question, is it? A small box deposited with the pawnbroker by Mr. McGilded 2 months ago.
And on the night of Mr. Windybank's murder, the only item in the shelves that was touched by whoever broke in the shop. Alright, I'm leaving it there. I'm not going to save at this point, I'm just going to quit. No! No, 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 I don't want to see it, 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 I don't want to see it. Cross my eyes, do anything. I don't want to see it yet. There we go. Exit game, don't save.